Good evening, everyone. Welcome to November's Monday night workshop. I'd like to thank you all for joining us online, and thank you for our wonderful audience for coming in tonight. You're welcome. Yes, there are people here. I'm not talking to empty chairs. So I wanted to welcome you to November. I can't believe we're in November already. And then, you know, Christmas season is a Hallmark actually launched the Christmas movies 2 weeks ago. I can't believe that. And I watched a couple of them. But anyway, we're coming to the close of 2018 now. It's amazing. So this is November. As far as our announcements, naturally we don't have anything on the books just yet. Our funds are still a little light, so we don't have enough to get us a deposit. We're having a board meeting this weekend, so we should be talking about some of our options coming up. But Monday night workshops are still here, as well as the Wednesday workshop. So our Wednesday workshop will be on the 21st, I believe, and that one is about divine intervention. I'm very excited to talk to you about that one. And tonight's topic is about love without exception. Now, you know, tomorrow's voting day. And I'm so excited about voting day because that means all of the political ads will disappear from TV. That's my only reason why I'm excited about it. I know that I should be excited about voting and change and whatnot. I'm done with the ads. That's a judgment. I am very aware of that, but I am also grateful that we have an opportunity in this great nation to vote. So, with that said, I know the political tensions have been on the rise as well. And not just political political tensions. But I was really moved a couple of weeks ago when they had the shooting at the synagogue. You know, I feel devastated isn't the correct word, but distressed. When I think about people who go to a place of worship and then they're killed just because they're worshiping. It made me think about the young kid who killed those people in the Baptist church last year. And there's a number of shootings that are going on for religious reasons, and that disheartens me. Disheartens is the correct word, so I feel disheartened. Because really, if you think about it, all we really do want is love. Every human being on the planet, it's love. It's the thing that we strive for, we seek. It bonds families, it bonds countries, communities together, is love. And without it, there's discord, disharmony, upset, frustration, anger, hatred. All of that can come into play. So I wanted to talk about the idea of love. Love is not new. I didn't invent it, obviously, but I had this picture that was sent to me that I really loved. It's a church. I think it's a Baptist church in South Carolina, but they have this banner posted, and as a matter of fact, did I do something wrong? There's a banner that they created, and it's kind of an extension on love thy neighbor, one of the commandments. And I love that it's updated. And so I thought I would take a moment and talk to you about that in just a bit here. So I wanted to read this quote that I came across. I think this is very intriguing. It says, "In a social environment that is ever crowded and impersonal, it is becoming increasingly important to reconsider the value of close relationships before we are driven to ask the forlorn question, what ever happened to love?" And I find that to be quite true. I was at a birthday party this weekend, and it was my granddaughter. She turned 13. It was like the final party that she saw. All her friends are over. And I'm not kidding you. I walked into my granddaughter's bedroom, and every one of the kids is sitting there, not even talking to each other, just sitting there. Some are on Instagram, some are on Twitter, some are on Facebook, some I don't even know what they're on, but they're just on. And I find that intriguing. Like, you come to a party, and you sit, and this is us. And that's considered the norm. Not that there's anything wrong. I'm not saying wrong, and again, not trying to be judgmental, but I am aware of the disconnect that happens when we are together as human beings, but there's another device in the way. So there's always a device in the hand. Have a conversation with any teenager today, and 9 times out of 10 they will not be looking at you. They will be looking down. And they'll answer you in very short, concise answers, which I don't mind, but there's also no connection. It feels impersonal, I guess is the best way I can say it. My experience of being impersonal, or having the feeling of impersonal, first started when the customer service system switched over to the automated system. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that. You no longer had a person that we talked to. You had to go click, 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 and eventually you'll finally get to a person if you can, and most of the time they're the people from India and you cannot understand them. I'm kidding, I'm not making, but you understand what I mean. So we struggle with the personal. Mark, you're looking at me very upset. Is there something wrong? Oh, okay. You look upset. Just checking, I thought I was stepping away out of the frame. Anyway, so being impersonal was that not having a personal connection, that automated system. And then customer service, of all places, not to have a personal was just very odd. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea that in today's era, when we have something impersonal, it creates stress and not love instead of having love. And so if we're wanting to implement more love, then naturally personal is required. Personal constitutes what I am as a human being. So love, to me, I think is a great mystery. You can drink it in and be swimming very high on it. It can warm your soul. It lifts your spirits. It connects us to people when we experience love. It's contagious. Every human being on the planet desires love. If love were a commodity, not sex, but love, if love were a commodity, it would be priceless. We wouldn't be able to put a price on love. It's free to give and free to receive, requires nothing. It can drive us to become great human beings. It gives us the ability to forgive, to practice acceptance and understanding. Love gives us strength. I mean, I know lots of moms that become very powerful because their children are sick, and they're strong now. They have a voice because they're driven because of someone that they love. We can endure great suffering when we have love. Many people who have the cancers and the diseases, they're surrounded by a group of support and love, and that makes a difference. As a matter of fact, cancer treatment societies of America, I think that's one of the things they do is the support groups now, so that you're not all alone anymore. You're not struggling and fighting disease on your own. So as I said, love is free and easy to attain. Every person on this planet is capable of love. Everybody is capable of love. Everybody is capable of love. So naturally, the question that we are faced with, if everybody on the planet is capable of love, then why do we have so much violence, upset, judgment, and hatred in today's society? If everyone's capable of love, why do we have a society that's not glowing, overflowing with love? We are reminded to love. I mean, I know there's a push out there now, let's love, let's not have the upset, and yet there's still upset, and there's still anger and frustration. So this goes beyond, again, I'm going to say this goes beyond the political drama. I don't even want to tap into the politics because that creates upset, and that's not my intention. I don't want to be creating upset. I'm wanting to dismiss it, diminish it. I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about the fact that tomorrow's voting day, and I don't vote, not vote, but there's still going to be the upset. No matter what the outcome, there's always going to be an upset. We're at the place now that so many people are angry, and they feel the right to be angry no matter what the prediction or way ends up being. So the concept would be to practice love as we're experiencing the upset and the anguish and the stress, but not to be drawn into the upset, anguish, and the stress. So as I said earlier, there's shootings at the religious centers, at schools, in malls. They're shooting people going shopping. Social media is filled with the haters who leave their comments, or flex their internet muscles. There's violence on TV, in music, in movies, in video games. That's all norm. It's all the norm now. It's very rare to find a movie that doesn't have anybody killing somebody or a zombie. I shouldn't say it's not rare. There are times when it is rare, but like the movie Christopher Robin, which I haven't seen yet. Have you guys seen it? Anyone seen it? I want to see this movie. Anyway, if we desire to be loved, why do we turn the opposite of love? Now, many years ago, George made a very astonishing statement. He said the opposite of love, most people think the opposite of love is hate. George said the opposite of love is fear. Now that was a very forward-thinking statement, but if you think about it, there's no quicker way to diminish love than to introducing fear into the equation. Because as soon as I fear you, I'm not loving you. I cannot have love and fear at the same time. It's impossible. As a matter of fact, there's a Bible verse that says, perfect love casts out fear. I got it right. Perfect love casts out fear. That means if I were truly loving, there would be no need for fear. And fear, ladies and gentlemen, fear is the underlying current that supports hatred, it supports judgment, it supports violence. All of that is fear. It's all based underneath fear. We have judgments, we see discrimination and angst, but all of that is founded on the idea of fear. So I think George was ahead of his time on this. And it makes sense to me. When we fear, we can't love. When we love, we cannot fear. That makes sense to us. So this banner, the picture that I was sent, it's updated for today's society, which I think is great. And all of them pertain to reasons why we do not love. These are simple reasons why we do not love, challenges that we can challenge ourselves to overcome, to be able to love. Now, obviously it goes along with the line, the commandments, love your neighbor, thou shalt love thy neighbor, as, I don't remember the commandment.
Love themselves or love yourself?
I don't
love
know.
Thy neighbor
as you would love yourself?
Something like that.
I'm a terrible Christian. But you don't have to be a Christian to understand that. You know, love your neighbor, that we should be loving and kind and gentle with all of our neighbors. Now, I would like to extend that further, not just your neighbor. Any human being we come in contact to, we have the ability to love. We don't have to just pick and choose. Oh, I'm going to like you and I'm not going to like you. I'll love you, but I'm not liking you. So the first one, love your neighbor who doesn't look like you. Now, I have a little bit of a joke here. You know, unless you're identical twin, everybody doesn't look like you. So naturally, we understand you have to love somebody who doesn't look like you. That would be an easy thing. But what causes us, the question I think is, what causes me to not love somebody who doesn't look like me? Race, creed, color, doesn't matter, but somebody who doesn't look like me. What causes me not to love them? So I think about bullies. I was bullied most of my life as a teenager. As a child, all the way up until my teens, I was bullied. And so you would think, well, are bullies afraid and that's why they're loving? Well, I would say, not loving, why they're bullying. That makes sense. That a bully may be afraid of being bullied, so that's why they bully. Or maybe they're being bullied at home and they bring it forward and then they bully other individuals. So it could be based on fear on that one. You know, I know a lot of people say people bully because they're jealous of you. I'm not sure that's it. I don't think bullies are jealous. I think they pick on the weaker because it makes them feel better because they're afraid not to look strong or act strong. And so I think the fear is a good one on that one. When we think about people who don't look like us, it could be your gender, your age, or your race, like I said. There are some people who are afraid of, the elderly because, they bark and yell all the time. Not you guys. Some people are afraid of teenagers. Some people are afraid of people that look like they might be in a gang or the militia. I mean, you understand the different pockets of individuals. But all it's just somebody who's different. That's all it is. And this can also be based on our past experiences. I mean, how many times have I heard women say, men are useless or no good, you can't trust them? That's not true. I mean, there are wonderful men on this planet. It's just her experience. So she's spouting this belief that all men are bad when they're not. It's just what her experience has been. So that causes us to not love. Our past experiences, our past influences, our behaviors, that's what's going to change us from loving people, because I'm afraid. In that instance, a woman might be afraid she's going to get into another relationship with a guy that's a jerk. And so her spouting all guys are jerks would be a position on why she would choose not to love someone based on the way that they look. And of course, basing on the way that they look, you know, how many times have we heard the stories of people who've taken homeless individuals out to lunch or bringing them a lunch, bring them a meal, and 9 times out of 10, most people are surprised by the conversations, the depth of a conversation they have with someone who's homeless, the consequences or the circumstances which brought them to being homeless. Some people were motivated. I know somebody who was actually motivated to actually do a weekly lunch with this person. I think that's great. So once we get over the initial first impression, we discover the depth. Now that takes work, and perhaps maybe people aren't interested in putting in the work. It's so easy for us to just discount instead of just take the moment and say, okay, there's another human being just like me. I can love this person just like me. The next one was, love your neighbor who doesn't think like you. Now this one I had to laugh on that. Who doesn't think like you. Mark and I were talking the other day. There is a story, a movie called The Children's Story. I love this video. It's just in a short synopsis. A war has taken over, and there's an elderly teacher in the front of the room, and they're 6 or 7-year-old kids. And she's saying, the world is the war over? Oh yeah, who won? Oh, I don't know. And it's okay, Johnny. And she, oh no, my name's not Johnny. And like the teacher's very frail. And anyway, in comes this young militant woman and very vibrant and escorts the older teacher out. And in the process of 20 minutes, this teacher gets the entire group to fall in love with her. They cut up the American flag, throw it out the window, and have dedicated themselves to now her way of being. All of that was, the idea was, I just lost myself. Thinking. She convinced everyone, 20 minutes, young minds, 20 minutes. Now, I didn't do it justice, but it's a good movie. So the concept is we can brainwash people. So do we want our guard up on that? Well, yeah, think for ourselves, but I don't have to be dismissive and angry and judgmental to anyone who thinks differently than me. Everyone has their own opinion. We have a right, as a matter of fact, we have a right in the United States to have our own opinion. We have the right to be able to speak our own opinion, freedom of speech, having an opposite point of view. We get frustrated and we lash out. I think it's because we take it personal. So we get frustrated and lash out. I have a debate, you can debate, we have an opinion. And sometimes debates, a healthy debate, is very good for us. When we have a healthy, and I'm emphasizing the word healthy, when I have a healthy debate, we actually learn something about a topic we didn't know about, or another person's point of view. So having a debate is good for us. However, we often take it personal. And we get emotions involved, and we get frustrated, and we start attacking. We make an attack. Oh yeah, well, you're a bully, or you have a fat head. We say things that are goofy, but we're attacking people because I'm frustrated and I feel invalidated and I feel afraid perhaps that I'm not valued enough or I'm not as smart or whatnot. So I attack just because it's an opposite point of view. So loving someone who doesn't think like me means that I embrace. It doesn't mean I take on their point of view, but I recognize you have a point of view, you have a point of view. Hey, you know what? You all have a right to your own point of view. You don't have to think like me. I still can love you. We're all human beings. I know this sounds so simple. I'm almost embarrassed to say that this is what we're talking about, but sometimes I think bringing us back to the simple things is important. So, love your neighbor who doesn't love like you. Now, marriage counselors have made tons of money off of couples who don't love the way that they want the other one to love, significant others. You know, you have, he ignores me, or she's constantly complaining. Now, I know that's not what this is pertaining to, but that's just where my mind went. When you love somebody who doesn't love the way you want them to love you, or doesn't love like the way you do. I'm aware that this is really pertaining to same-sex marriages or age differences. When people who have a drastic age difference in their marriages, usually there's a bit of judgment. Actually, this really does pertain to judgment. There's an idea in your mind that's wrong. You shouldn't be with that person. That's wrong. No, that's disgusting. Like, we have that quick thing. Or, you know, back in the old days when we had a mixed couple, a black and a white person integrated, mixed couple, that was considered wrong. No, that's wrong, that's wrong. So, you know, there's progression, obviously. But again, it's connected to judgment. And what is it that we fear? Are we afraid that they're going to make us like them? Or like I'm going to want to have a relationship now with same sex, or that I'm going to want somebody older or younger or whatnot. I'm not sure what the fear is coming in there. I think this is more based on judgment and what I've been told growing up. This is the way a relationship looks like. This is the way you're supposed to be. I understand that. I mean, if we think about it, in ancient Greece, it was, typical is not the right word, it was well documented and known that men slept with little boys until they were 12 or 14 years old, or until the boy got married off. And as a matter of fact, when the boy was married, the woman had to dress up like a man in bed, so that when the husband came in, it would be like a man. That's the way they did it back then. No judgment, but I'm saying things have changed. So every society has their own ethical way of loving. So the thing is, don't love your neighbor who doesn't love like you. So when we're challenged with people who are different than us, what do we do? Do we go, ugh? Or do we say, oh, look how beautiful they are, they're celebrating. Look how wonderful that is. Next one is love your neighbor who doesn't speak like you. So here I went with New York. Have you ever talked to a New Yorker? You know, in New York, sometimes people, all they have to do is hear the New York voice, and that's it. They immediately turn off. I don't want to, oh, you're rude, you're just, no, you're one of those people, go away, I don't want to talk to you. So that sometimes can happen, and, you know, it's amazing how we have fear connected to just a voice. And it could just be not even New York. It could be, you know, with the end of World War II, the Germans, anybody who was a German, you're Hitler, you're a Nazi. I mean, how long did that go along? Not every German person believed in Hitler, but yet we clump them together. Oh, that's you. After 9/11, the Middle East, everyone's a terrorist in the Middle East. That's not true. But once 9/11 happened, boom, we clump them all together, and that's it. As soon as I see, oh, no, we don't want to talk to those people. So it's unfortunate that ends up happening. When it comes to, and the Cold War, remember the Cold War with Russia? Oh, Russia, no one talks to Russian people. No, those are bad people. That's how we grew up. At least that's the society I grew up in. The Russians were the bad people. Is everybody in Russia bad? Of course not. I mean, there's bad people all over the planet. So it's amazing how when we have people who don't speak like us or come from different cultures, we automatically want to discount and say, no, no room for you, go away. You caused me harm, you caused me pain, go. It's not even worth my time. Then we have the one that says, love your neighbor who doesn't pray like you. And this is when I first started speaking. The idea of, you know, the dismay of going to practice and prayer and you get killed because you believe in a different God, or you believe in a different faith, a different practice, and a different religion. To me, I think the important question is, it's not how you pray, but that you should be praying. I mean, isn't it important that we're praying, or that we're connecting to a God, to something greater than us? You know, the devil's advocate in my head is going, oh, but what about the devil worshippers? You know, does everybody have a right there? I'm not there. I don't know that, but I don't think that I would go into a devil worshipping place and massacre them just because they're doing what they're doing. That doesn't seem appropriate to me. I think that when it comes to a lot of the war on the planet, it's based on religion. As a matter of fact, the Pope himself used to ride into battle. He would lead the battles to go get those individuals who didn't believe in Christianity. And I always find this intriguing. Jesus was crucified. He was Jewish, crucified. And then they called them Christians after Christ. So Christianity, you were killed for being a Christian, thrown to the lions in the Colosseum. Who thought that up? I do not know, but hey, let's throw human beings to a lion. And that went on for 300 years. Christians were persecuted for 300 years. And then Constantine converted, and then converted the entire Roman Empire, which now, Rome is where most people think Christianity, Rome, which it wasn't. Jesus, Jerusalem, and the Middle East. But Christianity now is Rome. And then the Pope went out and killed people who weren't Christian. I mean, that's a very odd story if you really think about it. That you kill for for being a Christian, and then we kill for not being a Christian. And then, of course, the Christianity branched out into so many different directions. Now, when I think about this, I think, I remember in my young mind, I used to struggle with the difference between Judaism and Christianity. Essentially, it's the Old Testament versus the New Testament Jesus. So Jesus came onto the planet, that's where Christianity went. Judaism is the Savior hasn't been born yet. I get it. Each has their own culture, their own traditions, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they both pray to God. Their ceremonies, their symbolisms, and they still adhere for today. Generations, centuries, and they still exist. We can then branch off into the East, the Far East, the Buddhist, the Confucius, Lao Tse, Taoism, all of those, same thing, all the different branches, but it still comes down to the search for nirvana, for God, for peace, for compassion. So, as many of you know, I have really done my own little study of the different philosophies and the dogmas and the religions that have existed on this planet. And it is mind-blowing when you go all the way down to it, how common the basic structure is. Almost every religion believes in loving one another, compassion, acceptance, forgiveness, honesty. Almost every single one. It's all based on, they have a very common underlying current. And yet, we have, I don't even know how many thousands of religions that exist on this planet. I dated this guy many years ago. He was a born-again Christian. And he had a book, I'm not kidding you, it was like this thick. And the book was designed solely to disprove all the other religions. I was so curious about that. I was like, who sat down and wrote this all, first of all? And, there were some really good points. I mean, you can make a point for anything. But so he had this book, and I was just so absolutely fascinated by it. And that's actually when I started reading about other religions, because I thought, if they spend so much time discounting, what is all the other religions out there? So I know that a few years back, somebody had asked me, well, then what religion are you? And I like to do that was a goofy laugh, sorry. But I like to do what Gandhi said. When Gandhi was asked what religion he was, he said, I am Judea, I am Christian, I am Islam, I am Muslim. Like, he represented all religions. And I think that's quite true. I know I lean more towards the Buddhist, just because I like the meditations and the contemplation, going within. I like those, living a peaceful life, harmlessness. But again, all other religions have that as well. I just think I lean towards that. But I do find value in all the other religions. And to me, I think that's so important. Like, that's the key. And that's why I'm spending a little bit more time here, is when we find the value. So when I start to find the value of the people who are praying differently than me, then I don't have an upset. I don't have a need to eliminate them and wipe them off the planet. as I said, a lot of wars were fought on religion. Many of the extreme terrorists would call us infantiles. We're infidels. Infidels, thank you. Infidels. Because we're a godless country. Well, looking from the outside, yeah, it does appear that we are a godless country. It appears that way. So I can understand that point of view. I am not soliciting that point of view, but I understand it. I don't need to return their hatred with hatred, because that's just going to get us nowhere. So I can have compassion for them. I can have understanding for why they make the choices that they make. It's not up to me to be the judge and jury. Me, personally, I think that. So when I think about what Omega represents, we talk about unconditional love. And, in unconditional love, what we discuss is the idea, 3 parts: to love the unlovable, give to the undeserving, and forgive the unforgivable. Now, this is a big task. How do we love the unlovable, give to the undeserving, and forgive the unforgivable? Because right then and there, we have to implement forgiveness, giving, and love when we don't want to. Have you ever had a kid who's upset and they're angry, they're throwing a tantrum, and you try to give them a hug? You'll get slapped in the face. Get away from me. Because you can't force someone to love you. You can't force someone to accept you. And you can't force someone to understand you. So our job is to love them, even if they don't understand us. To love them, even if they don't love us. To love them, even if they want to eliminate us. It's not my job to retaliate. At least, as far as I know, I've yet to find a place that said retaliation is the way to go. I know in the Bible, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I don't know what that reference was for. And I know a lot of the things in the Bible were symbolic. I also know the Bible said turn the other cheek. If you get slapped in the face on the left side, offer your right side as well. So to me, I think the key would come down to being lovable, to love. So again, back to the idea of loving people who do not pray like you, just mostly because it's in my mind since the synagogue happened last week, those priceless people that just died because they loved praying to a God that was different than somebody else's God. I feel like that's an opportunity for me to love without judgment and upset and anger and angst. And the last one, of course, is love your neighbor who doesn't vote like you. I don't want to get into that, like I already said. But it's true, unfortunately, in this last political season, there's been so much hatred. And I was accosted because I wouldn't vote for what somebody wanted me to vote for. How can you not vote for a woman? Blah. I'm sorry. Like I might have to apologize for voting. And, not that I have a political preference, I just want to look at the big picture kind of thing. And anyway, we all have our own reasons for what we do. But the political temperament, I just want to remind us all, the political temperament, it's not like it's never happened in this country before, because it has. We've had horrible events happen. As a matter of fact, when African Americans were given the right to vote, there were people with shotguns standing at the voting polls not letting them in. So please don't do that tomorrow. But that's what happened. Back in with them for the right to vote, but going even further back, when Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, there was chaos among this country. It was the Civil War, obviously. It was the Republicans that wanted to free the slaves, and the Democrats wanted to keep them. That was, many people don't know that, but that really was I'm not lying, that's what it was. The Democratic Party wanted slavery, and the Republican Party, that's back then. I know things have changed, but even back then, there was the strife between the parties. So here's this big, huge strife happening between the parties. So again, like I said, it's not new. Oh, back in the 1920s, this is a good one. When women, the 13th Amendment, we were given the right to vote. Strife. Men, how dare you? You're not. Can you imagine a man saying to you today that your voice is invalid? You don't have the right to speak. You don't have the right to vote. but it happened back then. As a matter of fact, this was in I want to say the 1919 or 1918. It may have been 1919. For 1 month, I believe there were 30 women that were arrested and put in jail for a month without any charge, simply because they walked and protested. They protested to Washington and said, we have a right to vote. They arrested them all and kept them in jail without any charge. Just kept them in jail for a month. A month in jail. That's it. So again, we have had the strife and chaos is no stranger to the United States. But I think that's probably one of the reasons why we have it is because we understand everyone has a voice here. Everyone change happens and evolution ends up happening. But again, the concept is each one of these causes was very valid. I mean, the right to vote, slavery, abolishment, these are good causes to have. But do we have to be met with violence? Can I take a cause without being violent? Can I take a peaceful cause? Now, naturally, the answer is yes. People of this generation, I'm not sure know, but Gandhi was a beautiful example of a peaceful cause. He refused to fight. He refused to lift a finger. He would not say a negative word about anybody. Gandhi was an individual who tried to show the world that you can come to a peaceful resolution, and he did. In India, England, I believe it was England, the English, tyranny that was happening, and he said, enough, enough. They walked into the people with the sticks, didn't fight back. They protested peacefully, and he created change. Now, I read a book a couple of months ago where they talked about, did Gandhi really do justice? Did he really make a difference in change? I don't know about the political, I didn't follow up on that, on the political changes that still existed in India. I believe they did. But what the author actually wrote was it was sad that he was shot, because right when he was at the precipice of his life, who knows what else he could have done, and he was shot. To me, I find that intriguing how when we have members who take a peaceful stance or who refuse to get involved, they're taken out. I just find that intriguing. Jesus, same thing. If Jesus truly was the Son of God and could have struck anybody down with lightning, he didn't. As far as I know, he raised the dead and healed the sick. So he went out of his way to be kind, loving, instead of angry and vengeful. As a matter of fact, I believe the story is when he was on the cross, the two people, one of them was like, hey, you're Jesus, you can get us down. And the other gentleman was like, no, that's not his point. That's not the purpose and whatnot. So I know I don't know the story accurately. I'm a terrible Christian. I've already said that. But the concept is, again, back to the idea of love the people who do not vote like you. And, we can collectively squish these all back into the commandment that says love your neighbor. And if I just drop love your neighbor, I just say love. It would be a commandment to love. Why do we find it so difficult to love? Why do we find it so difficult to love when it is the thing that we desire the most? Well, as we've already mentioned, we have the judgment, we have the frustration. Expectations is another one that comes into play. When we have expectations and it doesn't go the way we want it to go, I like the idea of how you can make this plan. Oh, there's this guy or this girl, everything's gonna be right. And it all falls, Murphy's Law. Everything just goes boom, 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 and you get frustrated and angry. But then they end up having a really good time, despite all of the things that didn't go their way. So it's kind of it's leading me a little into my next workshop, which is divine intervention. But that's where I would think that if I can get myself out of the way, love would be easy. If I can get myself out of my head, love would be easy. George used to talk about the idea that the longest distance that a human being has to make is 13 inches. 13 inches to go from my head to my heart. That's the longest distance, the greatest journey. The greatest journey that we would take is to go from my head to my heart. And he used to say that whenever you're making a decision, you should always consult your mind and your heart. And most people forget their heart. They always go with their mind. most people forget to check and say, how does this feel? Is this something I want to do? Is something I feel good about? So when I think about the idea that we have so many people who don't love or are afraid to love, perhaps maybe we're not setting an example enough for love in the next generation. I was thinking, like I said, I saw a bunch of teenagers this weekend, and I was thinking what kind of examples are we setting for this next generation? Are we teaching them what love looks like? I have to say this, the next generation is very free to say, I love you. And they're very, hey, whatever you need, they're very free on that aspect. But they're not free in loving everybody. It's loving people that are like them. But the people who aren't, they're very quick to say, oh, no, and cut somebody off. I mean, I think it's called ghosting. That's what they say, you get ghosted. If you text someone and they never respond back, or you call them and they, oh, you're ghosting me, like they disappear. And that's true. This generation can deeply love, but they can cut you off that fast. And that's it. They don't have a problem with it. So I wonder what kind of, as I said, what kind of example are we leading? I was intrigued. My grandson's playing this new game. It's set in the 18th century, 1800s, and down south. And so his character will run through the woods, and every once in a while he says, oh, it's kind of weird, you just randomly show up at a KKK meeting. Excuse me? Well, yeah, every once in a while there's just a KK meeting in the middle of the woods. So I paused for a moment, and I didn't want to say anything. And I didn't want to say anything. And I said, well, you don't find anybody burning or hanging, do you? Oh, no. Like, can you join the meetings? No. Well, then, why are they there? Oh, well, that's the way they are. So I was thinking, okay, I get it. I know you're wanting to be true to history, but what's the point? Why continue on something that is so filled with hatred? I mean, KKK, somebody in a white sheet, hatred. That's a symbol of hatred, and we're putting it in games. And kids don't think anything of it. Now again, he's 15, so it's not like he knows what the KK is capable of doing, and they still exist. That's even scarier enough. But I was just taken back, thinking, wow, that's just in a game. Now I know it's just a game, just a point, but if we step back, the entire game is about being an outlaw, killing people, stealing. I mean, that's really what it is. And then if we go back, there's more games. I mean, there's so many games out there with zombies and killing and weapons and whatnot, and it's normal. This is what our kids are growing up with. It's normal to them. To me, it's so much, but it's normal to them. So these kids are growing up with, I'm sounding very preachy, I don't mean to, as an observer. It, to me, looks like our children are growing up in an environment where it's normal to kill and be angry and hatred. And, I watching the game, he punched his horse just because you can. Okay, but there's also buttons where you can love the horse. And I thought, well, why are you loving? Why even make an option to punch a horse? That just seems odd to me. But anyway, and then, thinking about movies, I said this before, I mean, it wouldn't be a movie unless there was murder or some kind of violence, explosion and whatnot. So it goes back to the idea then, what can I do about it? I'm not MGM, I'm not producing videos, I'm not Nintendo or whatnot producing games, but as a human being, what can I do about it? As a human being, what can we do about it? How do we implement more love on the planet? Very simply, love. The more I love, the more love exists on the planet. The more I hold back love, the less love exists on the planet. The harder the people to love, the greater the contribution. As in any obstacle, people who work out, ride your bicycles, you have to have that resistance. When we work out, it's a little difficult, but there's a great reward. So the harder the obstacle, the greater the reward. So find the people that are difficult to love and love them. Nobody wants to do that. What are you talking about? No! But that would be it, really. If I wanted to practice love, find the ones that I struggle with and love them. Love them. It doesn't mean I have to be best friends. I don't have to pick up their philosophy. I don't have to go by their code of how to live my life. But in that moment that I'm standing before them, I can choose to love. I've had a couple of examples of this happen to me recently, where I've been in front of individuals that were violent towards me. Love them. I've been in front of people who do not like me. Hard to believe, right? But I have been around people who do not like me. I have negative energy. Love them. I don't have to get involved in that. I don't have to pick it up. Okay, I can still love you anyway. I can choose to practice the love. Now, does this mean I've mastered it? No. When I've encountered people that I know that I have that quick little, oh God. And then I remind myself, okay, love. I can love. Now, knowing that I was going to do this workshop, I've been more mindful of it this last couple of weeks. And I find it curious that I was presented with situations that went, oh yeah, you really want to do this? I wasn't successful all the time. I would love to be able to have walking in and being in front of an individual who did not like me or expressed angst towards me or was violent with me and not go, I would like to have that ability, just to be able to look and see, oh, hi, and not have an upset, oh, thank you for being here, or, oh, nice to see you again, and how is the family? I would love to have that, to not have that reaction. I remember one time having a conversation with George. We were talking about awareness and consciousness. And the old adage that says that you can be aware that you're aware, aware that you're unaware, unaware that you're unaware, and then you're also unaware that you're aware. So we've had lots of these. Welcome to the conversations that George and I would have. So I remember we were talking about this, about the idea of expanding our consciousness and our awareness, and I just lost what my point of view was going to be on that one. So it was, hang with me for a second, with the consciousness and the awareness, aware that I'm unaware. Oh, we were talking about the goal would be that if I recognize I'm speaking a judgment, that's the first thing, to recognize what I'm doing. Then the second thing is to recognize the thought before I actually speak and stop it from coming out. That would be it. The next thing would be to recognize that I don't have the thought. That would be the ultimate, that I'm not thinking that thought anymore. And eventually you get to a point where you don't even need to recognize it because it doesn't exist. And that to me is like one step further. I'm just using the idea of unconsciousness going further and further into my brain, into my mind. I think that would be wonderful. If we could set our compass to love and not have to go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. To take the step back and, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. And then take the step back and just be. That would be the ultimate goal, I think, of awareness. So that would get us back to the idea of love your neighbor, to simply love without exception. Love without exception. Love without exception. It's the easiest thing that we can do and the most difficult thing that we can do, because people push our buttons. We know people push our buttons. We push people's buttons. There's upset, there's angst. How many times do you have to tell your children to clean their room, and in that moment you don't love them? you like them a little bit less. But we have to remember to go back to the idea. I'm trying to be funny. But the idea, again, the concept is love without exception. Without exception to love. So last month I gave you a challenge. Oh, I wrote it down and I forgot to... Oh, no, I do remember. The challenge was to find the wastelands, the thing that you waste and the things that are not wasteful. I actually created a list. Do you guys create a list? Did you follow it? Awesome. I did. I followed it for a little bit, and then I went back to being wasteful. But, so that was a good challenge. I think that was a good challenge. So this challenge this month is to love no matter what. Challenge yourself for the month. Whoever stands in front of you, love no matter what. Now, of course, I'm going to say it. Go to the polling tomorrow and love everybody there. The people who are standing with protesting signs, the people who are chanting, love everybody. Love everybody. Just go in and love everybody. That's a great challenge to start with. If you can do it tomorrow, then the rest of the month should be very easy for you. So that's your challenge for this month. Love without exception. No exception. Everybody. I was thinking, finally, have you ever had a dog? Anybody ever owned a dog? I love dogs. Dogs are beautiful creatures, and they love without exception. A dog you can yell at, you can hit, spank, people who do stuff, they still love. They still love. Until the spirit has been beaten out of them, they love unconditionally. Little children, same thing, love unconditionally. If you've ever had the opportunity to be around a 1-year-old little child, pure love. It's amazing how we start out life like that, and we end up, and then, we go through life away from that, and then end up being back towards that innocence of a child. I've had the beautiful experience of being with elders as they are passing on, and they're very gentle and back to the loving spirit, and nothing bothers them anymore. Why did I worry about this? And it's amazing how the transition of life, what we go through, to end up going back to being love. So again, that's your challenge. I'm going to end a little early tonight, but that's your challenge for the month, is to love without exception. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you to everybody online. I will see you in December for our final workshop for the year 2018. Have a good night.